Delve deeper on that, say when you're forced to do something day after day after day, say a job, household responsibility, a relationship, anything. It does not matter what the force of circumstance is. So while you were there in that responsibility, would you want to dissect it a bit in terms of when what started changing? Any episode, anything that you can share, which is more um, an eye opener from where the thing moved step by step, or at least a big step or a change of mindset.
That I think over a period of time, I have learned to enjoy what I do and try to make it interesting and not look at it as a chore, if you know what I mean. So it could be something as simple as cooking a meal for your family, which I probably do every day of my life. I've done that pretty much every day for the last so many years. And I started my domestic adventures pretty late in life. It's only in the last decade or so. So it took a lot of time for me to get used to it and be creative and things like that. So what started off as I need to do this for my family and I don't have a choice to where I am today, I feel I look forward to doing it because for me, cooking has become a stress buster. I enjoy cooking. I can now cook easily for 40, 50 people all by myself. So so something I think if something that's forced upon you, if you don't like it, but you don't have a choice to opt out of it, I think when you make peace with it or you just accept it and try to give it a different spin, it's easier to do it. And some tasks have to be done day in and day out repetitively, whether one likes it or not.
Wonderful. So
Correct?
is this what you're saying? If I understand correctly, it is the attitude that made the difference rather than the
Yeah,
episode itself.
yeah, yeah, you nailed it. I think it's the attitude. Yeah. Uh, yeah, because I did go through my journey of not wanting to do things because I didn't know how to do it, and I always thought if I have to get into cooking, I may not have time to do other things, and other things is probably work and stuff like that. But I think I managed to change that part of my thinking, and I just like the whole thing. And thankfully, I have a family that likes what I cook. So we try and decide on a weekend what I'm making during the week, and they give me feedback as well if something is good or something's really bad, and that also helps. So so yeah, I think the shift in attitude is what helped me, I would say.
Okay, this is wonderful because you brought this topic of cooking more than once on the podcast. I think our viewers must be really intrigued as to what you cook. But I want to stay there because it has opened up a nice little conversation on itself. So when you are in the middle of a problem, so we will just stick to cooking for now because that's a problem that you be with, and you are fighting with people that you don't want to pick up this chore, or you are fighting with yourself that you are fed up of it, and it is so much of trouble, or whatever mindset that one gets into when one is faced with an unpleasant situation of any kind. In your case, initially it might have been. So are we saying that when we start studying it a little more objectively, we realize that the event itself is not important, or the circumstance is not really that important. It is our own outlook, our own fears or doubts, or our questioning our own capabilities um, that leads us there. Is that what tends to happen? Uh, would you be able to remember a bit of the earlier part where you were initially inhibited?
Okay, so I'll probably explain it with the recipe that I tried doing out. Um, so as we know in India, rajma chawal is a big thing, right? Kidney beans and rice. Uh, so when I first tried making it, uh, this was before smartphones and Google and anything where you can ask people for recipes. And I'm a
Yeah.
South Indian, so my mom has never even bought rajma all her life.
Oh,
So, but I like rajma a lot. So I said, okay, let me try making it. So I just went about doing it the usual stuff. I just took the rajma, washed it under the tap, and I just put it along with the rest of the onions, tomato, and everything. And I just poured like double the quantity of water of the beans. And I said, okay, this will be done in an hour or so. And I kept waiting. I poured more water that also got absorbed. It was like pretty much the whole day, and the rajma never cooked. And I just didn't know. And I thought, okay, maybe the guy that sold it to me in an Indian store, he sold me something that was expired. And we just forgot about the whole thing. And it was only after a few months when I met some people who cook rajma on a regular basis, kidney beans on a regular basis, and they told me that, oh, you need to soak it. I said, oh, really? I didn't know that. So for me, even now when I soak the kidney beans, rajma, and I'm like, it takes me back to that time as to where I had no clue. But because I like eating myself, I like rajma, I can eat it practically every day. I learned how to cook it, and I think I make a reasonably good one, and I make sure it is soaked at least for a good
I
12
I
hours.
have a story on that, which is funnily enough. I had my office colleagues once ask me, "Do you know anything about cooking?" I said, "Yeah, I know at least one thing for sure." And they were all very keen, and of course, this was like you before Google and our getting used to the internet. I think the most that we were using it was about. We used to work on mail. That's the maximum that it happened. So what
Yes.
do you know? So I said, if you got to cook rajma, then you got to soak them overnight. And they said, and then I said, then I don't know anything, but I know that you got to soak them overnight. So we are well on the opposite sides of the spectrum. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
that's the key. But you knew the most important thing. I didn't know the most important thing, right?
well, I don't know what is the most important thing, considering that both of them were half knowledge based. I have
Yeah.
a question. My question is that you liked Rajma is kind of disqualifies the earlier question a bit. I want to go a little. Do you have an experience where something that you didn't like absolutely, and you stayed with it to figure out how to love it, for example? Because there is, yesterday I read a very nice line, a nice article by I think a Buddhist nun. The entire article is about love. She writes that as long as you're searching for love in the other person or in the other event, it's always going to be limited to a certain set of circumstances and dependent. Because of that, it becomes dependent, then it is not love, it is transactional analysis of some kind. Um, but it is not really love. Love leaves you free. So, in that sense, I think it works uh, for every little thing. I've kind of realized that you got to reach a point where you got to love the circumstance. Obviously, even today, there are things that happen. So, do you have any such example?
I can't see the reason I'm not able to give an example of something that I don't like. Is
Go.
I can't really pinpoint on one thing, purely because I think having being living in the UK for the last 14, 15 years, it's a very different kind of a lifestyle than it is being in India, right? I mean, you learn to do a lot of things yourself and you just get used to it. I mean, you really don't have an option. So there are very little things which I think I don't like and I will not do it or something like that because uh, I think I just reach a stage where I say, okay, if this is something I need to know, whether it's for my sake or for my family's sake, I might as well know it and get it done or learn it and move on. Having said that, the one thing which I have no interest in is probably on the technology side of things. I mean, I can still run McAfee, I can do my security, I remember my passwords, but it stops there. I mean, if somebody has to ask me what is the configuration of my laptop or an iPad, I have no clue. So those are the things, because I feel knowing those things are not really life changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so that is something like, I mean, right now we are trying to see if we can get a new TV in the house. We have one TV which is maybe 7, 8 years old, and we want a new one. And I was just talking to my husband. I said, "Oh, maybe we should get a new TV." He said, "Yeah, we'll get which one?" I said, "That's your job. I'm only giving you an idea. That's your job." So for me, I think, I think yes. If something doesn't interest me, or it has no relevance, I don't think I go beyond it. I mean, just this morning, one of my friends was just telling me the same thing. We were having a chat, and he said he's making some Indo-Chinese dish, and I told him, you know what? I said I cannot make those kind of delicacies even to save my life. And he was very complimentary about the other things, and he said, "Oh no, 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 don't even think like that. I'm sure you can do other things." But he said, with you, what I've seen is if you need to know something, you'll go after it and try to do it as best as you can. And what you don't know, you don't know. So that is how I'll probably sum it up. So yeah, the technical bits, I have no eye, ear, mind, anything for it. Probably because somewhere my husband is a deep techie himself. I mean, I don't know many people who have two versions of the earpods, iPods. I don't know whatever you call it,
Yeah.
iPods, right? Yeah, so he's got two of them, the last version and the current version. And so for me, it doesn't really matter. For me, earpod is a earpod, right? How does it matter whether it is Apple or Orange? So there you go.
Okay. No, in fact, I think I was smiling earlier itself because you cracked it the moment you said when you live abroad, you have to learn. So now
Yeah.
that itself is the episode that you kind of mentioned and yet missed. Uh, it requires an absolutely new mindset to come to terms with taking responsibility for a whole lot of things. In that sense, at least women are more equal to men in the West because they have to do everything as much as men have to do in the sense of worldly understanding of negotiating with things is what I would think. If that's what I took.
Wrong thinking. Women are better even in the Western world of things.
No, no, not in that sense of. I meant in terms of picking up responsibility. They have to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they are better. There is no discussion on the matter. We can't have a podcast on that. That's a one-line podcast. Yes, they are.
Oh, so because I'll tell you what, yesterday the weather was really good and we decided to go to the beach. And we have a dog at home, and this beach was quite of a distance. I mean, it was a 3 hour drive with about 180 miles one way. Okay. And I think yesterday was also supposed to be the hottest weather of the day of the year and things like that. So people were swarming in to go to beaches and things like that. So we had to split into two cars because we couldn't have four of us, the dog and the beach stuff and everything in one car. So I was okay to drive. I mean, I actually enjoyed the whole journey going because I had nobody with me in the car. It was just myself. I was listening to music, and it was absolutely fine. So while I was driving, it also made me realize that because I've learned to drive. I mean, I used to drive back home in India, but not that much. But one of the first things I did when I came here was I learned to drive very quickly. So the freedom and the independence that you have, so that is something which is which is not comparable, if you know what I mean. So something like that. I didn't have a choice not to. I mean, I could have told my husband, you know what, I'm not going to drive. You please do it, do all the driving. I'd rather be driven. But But in our household, it is usually the opposite way. So when we are going somewhere, it's I who jump into the driver's seat, and he is absolutely fine about it. Uh, so yeah,
So okay, I want to pick this up as a point. Since we've been talking about purpose, uh, is it when we are talking about attitude, if we were to break it and go a little, dissect it a little more, there is a certain force of circumstance that brings you into the heat of things. You
yeah,
take a call whether you accept that responsibility or you let it pass or duck. Uh, say if you had, for example, decided decided not to pick up driving at that point, where it was not a force.
mm,
Yesterday you wouldn't have gone to the beach. It's not
yeah,
about going. Yes, it's not about going to the beach or not going to the beach. The idea of freedom that you enjoy, of
yeah,
self-dependence, the independence thing, also actually feeds back into this. So today,
yes,
while you are very confident and categorical that this is what matters to you, but it actually, when you break it down, you got to work to make it work. It
yeah,
cannot happen while just making, like, you cannot just pick up the flag of independence and say, okay, this is me. Oh, I'm a woman of the world. I can do everything as good as, or as better than men or whatever. Even in that, even under the flag bearing role that we pick up, we got to buttress it with actual action and the right mindset, because the action cannot happen without the mindset. Otherwise, the Rajmas would still be there. Had you listened to your friends and thought that this is ridiculous, who's going to do all this work?
yeah,
I'm coming from now a place where, suppose you had not liked the dish as much as you do, you put in the effort. So if we bring in the requisite amount of love, if we are really fighting our own basic instinct of first reactions, allowing the our rajmas to soak in the pressure of that time,
yeah,
and at some point something good might come out of it, and that attitudinal change. So
yeah.
now there's a very interesting side question that comes up. Is that connected? You let me know, because it's just a question. I never thought about it.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so when one develops this kind of attitude, and when we are talking about purpose in life, which purpose in life sounds like a very big one, and it's like we are here to save all of humankind, we are going to save nature, and we are going to take care of our family for the rest of our lives, or we are going to cook for the rest of our lives. Anything. It always sounds very big, but is it actually very small? If we just take care of this little thing of our attitude, of our acceptance of the situation, allowing it to see, it will change at some point. We might
Yeah,
change for the better or worse, we cannot decide that, but at some point, if we allow the situation to become whatever it is to become, anyway, most of the situations are independent of us. They just come
yeah,
and hit us out of nowhere. Even to
yeah,
consider the example that I gave, which seemed flimsy, but now when I think about it, moving from here to London is just one thing. Okay, I'm just coming, I'm getting into the flight, reaching there. But just that one conversation, just that one incident, or any such thing that happens, if it makes you mull over and you accept uh, that it's created a new sense of chaos in your mind, because I think new ideas oftenly come with their own baggages of, you don't want them.
yeah,
Say if we are very lazy and we don't like waking up early in the morning, the first idea is, what's the use? And any which way is locked down. I can always do this later, or it's okay. Maybe tomorrow I'll give it a shot. These little things that we do with our anything as simple as where only we are concerned with ourselves, not even the rest of the world. Say your clients wake up late or whatever, so you can always give yourself, but you really know that your body is started to ache, and with our aging bodies, we need to be more fitter or whatever. But those things suddenly seem like, oh no, too big. At some point, we'll do that. But taking responsibility is that is that fuel for finding a purpose?